Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, the show that offers you tips and strategies to help speakers build the business of their dreams. Now here's your host, 30-year industry veteran and business coach, Jane Atkinson.
Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, and today we are talking about my favorite topic, money. More specifically, your fees, your pricing, and who better to discuss than a pricing expert, author of Fearless Pricing, Casey Brown. Welcome to the show, Casey.
Thank you, Jane. I'm really delighted to be with you.
I was so excited when I found out the name of your book because I have this one of my past clients, Peter Legg, a multimillionaire from out in Vancouver, had said to me once, decisions based in fear are typically wrong. And I have always kind of tried to embody that. Sometimes it's really hard to remember that that's your motto. What say you when it comes to decisions based in fear?
Yeah. So many things. Let me try to be succinct here. First, that most every pricing decision in the world is rooted in a fear mindset. Like the dominant emotion present for people when they're making a decision about what to charge, or when they're standing in front of a customer actually negotiating that fee.
Yeah.
Feeling that most accompanies that more than any other is fear. You line up 100 people who sell stuff and say, what do you love about selling and serving customers? I would bet you 0 of them would say, I love when I get to tell them the price. It's not.
Exactly. And I saw a video that you did, and you talked about people were more trying not to lose the sale than, how did you put it?
They're pricing not to lose rather than pricing to win based confidently in their value.
Win.
Yeah.
And you know what? You want to win. You want to win. And so here in speaking, let's talk first about your background, because you are out there killing it on the professional speaking. You told me your fees, which are quite high, I might say. And congratulations on that. You're kind of pacing yourself in terms of a number a year. Talk a little bit about your full business model. What are all your revenue streams, and how did you even fall into speaking in the first place?
Sure. So my background is engineering, and I was a 6 black belt at General Electric, and had a variety of very technical roles. But I really wanted to get closer to the customer and see what they cared about, what was important. And so through a windy path, ended up in pricing and absolutely fell in love with the discipline. To me, like if you look at an econ textbook, it's this very simple mathematical relationship, like the demand curve. But the real world is really different. There's a lot of negotiation. There's a lot of psychology. There's a lot of fear. There's guessing. It's more like a game of poker. It's like I'm trying to bluff and hide how much I'm really willing to pay you, and you're trying to bluff and hide how little you're really willing to accept. And so I'm very fascinated about that and started down the pricing path. As it pertains to kind of how I got to speaking and the role speaking plays in my business, I feel like better pricing execution it's the answer to dramatic profitability change for every business, yet it's kept secret. It's like I felt like I had the keys to the kingdom, but it was this little secret only I had. And so I started thinking very early in my business as both a business development path for my business, which at the time was, a mixture of training and consulting, helping people make better pricing decisions and then execute them better. So I was thinking as business development, and to sort of just get the word out. I'm evangelical on the topic of commanding the prices you deserve. I believe to me, it's about justice. Like, I think if you have excellence,
fairness, yes.
If you have excellence that you provide to your customers, then what you deserve in return is an excellent fee.
Yes.
And that less than that is unjust. So I started screaming this from the rooftops, and that started generating more business for the reason I was in business at that time was that training and consulting, not speaking. Speaking was a means to an end initially. But as I did more and more of it, and I like it, and I seem to have a bit of a knack for it, got on bigger stages, bigger fees, it became more of a revenue stream in its own right. And then last year, I published the book, Fearless Pricing. And so the speaking came before the book. Sometimes people write a book and then they start speaking.
Yes.
In my case, it was the other way around. But I had the sort of the learning lab of the past 15 years of speaking, training, consulting in this space that informed the book.
I love that. I love that. Tell everybody, the book is called Fearless Pricing, but tell everybody the subtitle.
Ignite your team, own your value, and command what you deserve.
I love the term own your value. And I think we're probably going to keep coming back to that. And so many people, I think, we could talk psychology. I listen to armchair experts. So now I've become an armchair expert. No, I just think that there's something about self-worth and there may be some work, and we're just getting ready to do a mindset workshop where we're going to be talking about things like that. And so that whole conversation, the mindset piece, really, really excites me. But let's get to our first question. Why do so many entrepreneurs, including speakers, underprice their products and services?
So we've already hit on this a bit. So it's in a word, it's fear. And in the other half of the answer to the question you'd asked me before about fear, and I talked a little bit about it being so omnipresent, that's true. But if you look at, and I am not a neuroscientist or a psychologist, but I'll play an armchair one today because I geek out on brain science. And you look at when we are operating in a fear state, the amygdala is running the show. It's really good at, fight or flight. It's not reasonable, nuanced, profitable decision making. And so when, this is where I love your mentor or friend's comment that, decisions in fear usually are wrong. And that's very true for pricing. And it tends to be asymmetrically wrong. We're not 50% of the time too high and 50% of the time too low. It's like we're almost 100% of the time too low because we operate from fear and we don't want to lose the deal. And so as a speaker might have, I'm just going to pick a random number. Say my fee that I'm going after right now is 10K. And I'm getting ready to get on a call and the bureau asks me, what's your fee? Or the client does. And I panic because I think, what if their budget is, and then I say a different number than I plan to say, then I'm working towards a different lower number comes out of my mouth. We don't say it's 12. We panic and say it's 8. So the fear has a disproportionate impact and an asymmetrical impact on our decision making, and it's not good for our
And okay, so here is takeaway number 1 for everybody. Make sure that you have your fee schedule. Print up a proper fee schedule. Everything related to money goes on this fee schedule. It's an internal working document. You don't need to share it with anybody. And post it on your bulletin board so that when somebody asks you, your brain doesn't even have a place to start working in the fear mode. You just look over at your bulletin board and then you quote the number and then you be quiet. And that is it, right? I mean, we really need to have people stop with the qualifiers after they say my fee is $10,000, but and however, or
you said so much gold in that one nugget. I want to just punctuate that with a couple of exclamation points. One is not just write it and post it. That's huge, but you have to practice saying it out loud. You have to practice saying it out loud till it's not emotional in the way it's not emotional for you saying your zip code. Like if you asked me what my zip code was, I would say 43202. Do I get stressed out about that number? No. Do I feel that number's too high or too low? No. It's just the number. And when we practice saying our fees enough, and we practice communicating that, then it becomes less emotional, which makes us much more effective, not only at saying it well, but staying in the moment when we say it versus plowing down the path of verbal diarrhea and qualifiers and caveats.
I love it. I actually use, how, so a guy that he used to be my therapist, actually, his name is Rick Carson. Plug for Rick Carson's book. It's called Taming Your Gremlin. And he kind of pictures it as a little green monster on your shoulder who's saying things in your ear like, oh, they're never going to have that much, or, oh, you're not worth it, whatever. where was I going with that? The idea, oh, I actually have tamed my gremlin to literally in my mind, when I am quoting my fee to somebody, I'm really truly thinking, I know you're going to probably think that's a little bit low. It's really it's just my choice, and I know you're going to get your value out of it, but I'm literally thinking, in my little gremlin is telling me, oh, it's low, tell them, it's low. It's okay. Don't worry about that. So I've trained my inner voice to work in my favor. And I actually truly do believe that.
There's another thing that you said that I think is really important and something I see not only speakers, but people across the industry struggle with, which is saying the number and then rushing right in and cutting their number, or saying things that effectively result in cutting the number. And it's really hard to be quiet after you say a number, especially if you're feeling a lot of fear. I'm an expert in this, right? This is my field, and this is still something I have to work on too, because emotions are a thing. And so I have a little post-it note, and for anybody who's only listening to this, it says WAIT. And I have this, I plucked it when you said that off my monitor. This is on my monitor all the time. And it stands for, why am I talking? So,
I love it. Okay, so this is take home number 2, people. Let's have a post-it note that says WAIT. Why am I talking? Once you have said the number, be quiet. Zip it. Button it. Do not speak. That is just and maybe if that's all that people get from this podcast, then you've done the job. I feel like there's a lot in that. I also think that maybe there's some exploration to be done as to why you aren't clear on your value and what it is that you're offering and what it's worth. Some people are going into organizations and helping to solve massive problems. So let's talk about pricing in terms of what value clients see at the other end. Okay. I was going to go back to GE and talk about light bulbs, but I think it's far more relevant for us to talk about different type of skill sets. So let's say there's a leadership speaker, and there's another speaker who talks about, I don't know, maybe networking. And I'm not diminishing networking. I'm just thinking about the types of problems that a leadership speaker can help to solve versus the types of problems that a networking speaker can help to solve. Talk a little bit about value and setting the fees in the first place.
Sure. Well, it's a bit tricky, because even a given speaker with a given talk, let's say they deliver the talk to client A and client B, and it's the exact same talk. They stand up there for 60 minutes, they crush it from the stage, and they deliver the same words in the same order with the same. They have different value to organization A versus organization B, because for example, organization A has, a global organization with 500 leaders, and they sell $2 billion worth of stuff. And organization B is a tiny fraction of that. Am I advocating that we would have some kind of fee schedule that is infinitely variable? No, I'm not. I don't think that's manageable, or doesn't kind of respect the need for fee integrity. I'm only mentioning that because I say it's very hard to get to the answer. How do we value-based price? Okay. That is one of the challenges to get there, because it's very often, not just in speaking, but in every industry, people, they meet me, they hear what I have to say. They're like, oh, that sounds great, Casey, tell me how to set my price. They would like a formula. They would like, tell me what to plug into Excel so that the right number pops out the bottom, so I win the most deals at the highest prices possible.
Right.
And I don't know if this is going to be a relief to people to hear or a massive disappointment, but there's no such thing as the perfect price. There just isn't.
Okay.
There's a price that helps you achieve your goals and work with the kind of clients you want to work with. And so if the most important thing to you is, I have a message that's, sits in my heart, and I feel like I have a huge difference to make, and the most important thing to me is to reach as many people as possible. Well, you can speak 365 days a year. If you're willing to give it away. Is that what I'm asking navigating? No, but I think we start with what do I want? What are my goals as a speaker? How does my message help and resonate and support the goals of the organization I'm speaking to?
Mm-hmm.
And then coming to some kind of triangulation to get to a number. And because nobody knows, I don't know how many speakers are in the world. There's that many possible different price combinations, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows what Casey Brown on a stage is worth until I make my first sale. And then it moves again and it moves again and it moves again. And so this is my way of saying for speakers, the world is your petri dish, right? It's yours to experiment with. And I would
Yes.
say as soon as you've won 5 or 10 talks at a given fee, maybe it's time to say, should I bump this fee?
Yes.
Because value is subjective and very difficult to kind of get our arms around.
I love that. And and you have to start somewhere, right? So we have a lot of our clients come out of the chute at say $5,000. Some might come out a little bit lower than that, but mostly 5 and then work their way up from there. So let us share a few reasons to up your fee. Number 1, supply and demand. If you want 4 engagements a month and you're booking 4 engagements a month, several months in a row, maybe it's time to bump your fee. Number 2, if you find yourself sharing the platform with higher priced speakers a lot, that tells you, I bet you did this in your first part of your career, right? Because you're at a fee level now that you're probably going, okay, now I'm sharing the stage with some pretty high-end speakers, some best-selling authors and people. If you're sharing the stage with people that are higher than you, and it's easy to find that out, by the way, just go to eSpeakers and look up fees and you'll be able to see. 3, if you have a new accomplishment, maybe there's a new book, maybe your next book will bump your fee to the next stage. If you have a new accomplishment or a new achievement. And there's also 4 is like there might be a perception problem with you not being as good as you are because your fees are too low. So that would be kind of come into the play. And so let's say clients tell you we would have paid much more. If more than one client ever says that to you, that is a big red flag that you should potentially be raising your fees. Anything else you think we should add to that list, Casey?
No, I just want to maybe make one more comment on that last point. The idea that our fee, because what we sell as speakers is pretty subjective. It's not like a, I don't know, bolts and fasteners where it's like measure the hardness, measure, like
widget.
it's not
Yeah.
easy to say definitively and objectively, an hour of Jane on the stage is worth X and an hour of Casey on the stage is worth Y. There is
Yeah.
subjectivity to it. And so our price tag communicates the value. It's a proxy for the value. And so if I tell you my fee is 5,000, you assume one thing. If I tell you my fee is 50,000, you assume another. Now,
Yes.
does that mean you just take me at my word and you just hire me at 50,000 without bothering to check if I'm a qualified and quality speaker? No, but it's a part of our brand message. It's part of our packaging of our brand. Our price is a piece of that. And if you can send a message about your brand that, hey, I'm suspiciously cheap. I'm a major keynote speaker sharing stages with Patrick Lencioni and Gina Wickman, but I'm only charging $2,500. Something's wrong here, right?
Yeah.
So you can create doubt and concern in the mind of the buyer when you're too cheap.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love this. Okay. So that I think is a good segue to talk about price objections. You say price objections are a good sign. What do you mean by that?
So if you're speaking with someone who's reached out to you to talk to you about speaking and you're having a discovery call and you're sharing a little bit about how you think your message is a perfect fit for their audience, their sales meeting, their whatever, and you tell them the price and then the conversation wraps up and they're like, okay, thanks. We'll be in touch. Is that bad news? Not necessarily. But if they start pushing back or they reach back out and say, hey, I know you said your fee was $25K. We only have $20,000 in the budget. Is there any wiggle room? If pushback on price is a buying signal.
Yes.
When a customer enters a negotiation with you about price, they are telling you, we'd love to have you on our stage. If they don't want you on the stage, they would not bother wasting their time negotiating with you. They would just move on and hire the next speaker.
So if anybody's like, well, starts to hum and haw about price, it's like, yay.
Right. Like
Let's
you mentioned
celebrate.
before about the gremlins, let the signal, the second I get a price objection, what I take is this is good. The silver lining is they are interested in me as a speaker, or they're interested in our training and consulting services.
Yes. I like that a lot. I don't have people negotiate with me. In fact, I cannot remember the last time. It's been maybe a couple of years since anybody has ever negotiated with me. And I wanted to talk about mindset a little bit. And I'm wondering if that's because in my mind, there's just no room for it. So it doesn't come up. Like, talk a little bit about mindset, the challenges that are specific to speakers.
Gosh, I have a couple of blog posts that I would maybe, if it's okay with you, you could put them in.
We'll put them in the show notes. We would love that. Thank you.
Because I'm going to give a quick answer, but there's a sort of a double
longer
click,
answer.
a little deeper into it. Because there's something about so speakers, there are speakers who speak about speaking, but most speakers don't speak about speaking. They speak about something else. They have their craft, their niche, their area of expertise, their area of thought leadership, and they're passionate about it. And it's easy for us to start to conflate our knowledge and the value of our knowledge and what we bring to the stage with our value ourselves, our worthiness, our own value. And so sometimes there's a problem if I say, okay, my fee is $25,000 and someone goes, oh, $25,000 for an hour? Are you crazy? Blah, blah. Instead of hearing that doesn't work for our budget, or we don't see the value of spending $25,000 for what we get, what we hear is you aren't worth that.
Right.
And it hits us because I'm not selling you a widget. If I tried to sell you this widget and said this widget costs, $100 and you say, no, I'm not paying that. Like that doesn't affect me in the same way as what I'm selling is myself and my knowledge and my own expertise and my own performance skills and charisma. So it is one of the things that tends to plague speakers more than people selling other kinds of goods and services is this very personal nature of the rejection and how we take that when someone pushes back. That's one key mindset limiter.
I think that's so interesting. You're going to laugh at me quoting Taylor Swift, but I just rewatched her Miss Americana, which is such a psychological, it's kind of like she downloads all the things she went through in her 20s as she was rising and then falling again. And I wrote this down because I thought this was so applicable to speakers. When you are living for the approval from strangers, and that is where you drive all of your joy and fulfillment, one bad thing can cause everything to crumble. So one bad conversation with a client saying, what, $25,000? That's how much you charge? Are you crazy? That can actually just have everything falling apart for you because you're kind of seeking. And that is where we need to work hard on knowing our value so much so that it's in our bones.
That's right.
That we really, truly believe it so that our little gremlin is saying, well, I don't know what you're talking about because I think that's actually pretty cheap. So,
yeah. There's something else there that, in the Taylor Swift comment, there's something called the negativity bias, another brain science geekery moment where we recall negative events with greater frequency and intensity than positive events. So you can have 10 conversations with clients or speakers bureaus and get booked and have it go great. And then you have one call where somebody, maybe acts like a jerk or says something kind of crazy about your fee. And all of a sudden your confidence in your fee crumbles from, even though that's an exception, but it tends to sort of amplify and bleed into our confidence everywhere. And it's really important to contain those pieces of negative feedback and not let them bleed over our whole confidence.
And how often do we get on feedback forms 90% approval rating, but the 10% comments are the ones that we zero in on and we just start beating ourselves up on? I haven't actually done a live presentation for quite a while now. I kind of pulled back a little bit last year. And I remember though, an engagement going super, super well, and me driving home and berating myself about it because I forgot to say something or some silly thing. There was no negative feedback form, but had there been, I would have just dove right on top of that
Right.
to jump on the pile. It's so easy with feedback forms to focus in on the negative. So that is a strategy that you have to be very, very conscious about. Look at them. Is there any value there for you? And then move on, because I think sometimes we can beat ourselves up for days over these things. Okay. What is, this is not a surprise. The question is, what is the surprising downside of discounting to bureaus and to clients? To me, it's not a surprise at all. What is the downside of discounting to bureaus and clients?
Well, there are many. The one that's obvious is this puts less dollars in our pocket, right? Like
Mhm.
if I say my standard fee is 30,000 and I sold it for 25, then I have 20, $5,000 less money. That's the obvious, clear, impact. And of course, all the downstream ripple effect that having $5,000 less means. But I believe that there is another, maybe even more problematic problem from discounting to clients is that we, as I said before, pricing and how we handle and communicate and defend our pricing and our value is a part of our brand. And so what especially for speakers, what they're doing is hiring an expert who is not just masterful in a topic, but masterful in communicating about that topic in a way that's engaging and transformational for their audience. And they're hiring an expert. And how you do anything is how you do everything. So when you show up in a negotiation and you don't believe in your expertise enough to hold the line on price, then you've told them, I'm not sure. Like, why would they put you on that stage? Why would they trust you in front of their 250 executives if you don't have enough confidence and authority in your own expertise to confidently command the price you deserve?
Yes. And you said it, how you do it. Anything is how you do everything. You teach an old Dr. Phil, you teach people how to treat you. And especially when you're starting to work more and more with speakers bureaus, I find that becomes essential. There are bureaus out there. I come from a speakers bureau background, so I really know that. I know the industry, and I know that every agency has kind of one or two agents who just love to get the best price possible for their clients, and they're always beating the speakers up on fees. And if you start working with that agent, and the first time you negotiate and the second time negotiate, you have told them that you don't value yourself or what it is, the problem that you're solving, and that they might as well just come to you with anything. Because so the old you teach people how to treat you idea comes across so quickly. So whenever somebody says it's a new bureau and they want me to negotiate, I say, make sure that you say it to them 3 times. This is a one time only to get my foot. I will not say yes to the next time. This is my fee. Be clear on that, and, make a big fuss about it, because I think that that is really important. Have you had speakers bureaus come to you, particular one kind of over and over again? Do you work with a lot of bureaus, Casey?
I haven't done as much of that, and I think it has to do, and I've started to more in the last couple of years. I think it has to do with how I got started in speaking in the first place, which was trying to get on stages less for the fee and more for the exposure to the audience, because it was a business development mechanism for my training and consulting business.
Yes.
As I've stood up speaking as a more intentional revenue stream, certainly that started to shift a bit. I have the advantage, I suppose, because of what I talk about. When somebody asks me, I kind of, chuckle and say, do not hire a pricing speaker that will discount. That person can
Yes.
any
That
credit.
would be so bad. That would be such a bad color on you.
Yeah, right. Like, how
Yes.
do you want me to stand in front of you? Like, if they're hiring me
Yeah.
for, to speak to 500 of their sales team, how will I have the credibility? How will I stare those people in the eye and tell them they should defend and communicate their value and hold the line on price if I can't even do that myself? So, I have to eat my own cooking, and I never mind being asked. I think it's part of human nature to try to, save money, and they want to spend extra on the shrimp cocktail. So if they can save a little on the speaker fee,
Exactly.
but it's like, look, that shrimp cocktail is going to be forgotten the next day. My
Yeah.
message is going to last for years.
Yes, and oh my gosh, the value that, coming back to the bigger the problem you're helping to solve, the more you can charge. Anytime you're incongruent, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Oh,
So
no.
there's
Mention
lots of ways to be incongruent as well as not holding your fees. Now, I'm just going to say, because I have a client who I'm kind of thinking about, um, this is your business to run in whatever way you want. My client does big keynotes at big fees and then kind of over off separately, does some smaller training projects, and has had some really good clients that just keep coming to her and feeding her income. And you know what? This is your business to run however you see fit. I see no value in her beating herself up on the fact that she's willing to accept this over here plus this over here.
Okay.
So I think we just need to say that, because everybody will have their own path that they're going to walk. And this is what we're talking about, is fearless pricing is like the cream of the crop, the icing on the cake, the perfect world, everything, the stars are aligned situations every single time.
I don't think there's anything wrong with, and that's where, when you asked me the question about value initially, I said, you got to start with what you want and what you care about. And so, for example, there have been not very many, but a couple of times I have substantially discounted and even done a pro bono talk, because the group, I was from a mission and a values perspective, there was such alignment that I wanted to support their organization. And so I
Yes.
would never tell somebody, price as high as you can and value that over your core values. No, not at all. If it is in alignment with your core values and your mission as a business to make it to make a price concession, do that. And don't be
Yes.
bad about it. Like you said, don't be apologetic about it. The key is do it with your eyes open. The key is do it with intentionality. The key is to and so you might say something like, I'm going to make space in my calendar to do one 50% discounted talk a year and one pro bono talk a year when the group aligns with these criteria. You may say that.
Yes, and I love setting the criteria ahead of time. Some people, I mentioned Peter Legg. He was Mr. Vancouver, and he got 10 offers a month to speak for free because everybody knew him in a town. And so we set out how many dates on the calendar would be set aside for pro bono or low bono. And if it's an organization that is near and dear to your heart, let's say it's heart and stroke, and your parent died of a heart attack, of course you go and do it. And let's not also forget that all the speakers that are listening here today, they're coming at this from a service mentality. They really want to serve the world and make it a better place. And sometimes that value is going to come into a factor as well.
Yeah. I think it's just really important, and it circles back to that first question you asked me, not to take your eye off the ball of the real value of what you're delivering, and don't do it to yourself, and don't let your clients do it to you, where you reduce this to a matter of time. Like, it's only an hour, it's only this. I love this Pablo Picasso stories in a plaza sketching. Once upon a time, a woman recognized him, asks him to sketch her. He dashes off this quick sketch, and she loves it. She's fascinated by it, asks him to sell it to her, and he quotes her a price of 5,000 francs. And she's shocked. In fact, she's outraged. She says, "But sir, it only took you 5 minutes." And he says, "No, madam, it took me a lifetime."
Oh,
And I love that story for speakers, because they've poured, they have raw talent that they've honed over years, even decades.
yes.
And I know, and because we've been in the speaking game a while, you slice every word. You try. I'm gonna do a slightly longer pause after this, because I think that this is a craft, and we work on it like a craft. So let us not let ourselves be talked into it's just an hour. It's not. It's 30 years of experience that have led me to this moment.
So good. So good. That is the perfect place for us to wrap. Now, people are going to want to get in touch with you. How do you want them to buy your book? And how do you want them to connect with you? Do you like LinkedIn? How do you like to do that?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if people would like free resources, some videos, some articles, some content I put out, LinkedIn is a great way to do that. And it's Casey Brown Boost is how you find me there. Boost like the energy drink. And also our company's website where we publish blogs and other kinds of articles is boostpricing.com. Yes. And anyone who wants to see anything about my sort of speaker part of my business and my thought leadership, content, entrepreneurship, CaseyBrown.com is that site.
CaseyBrown.com. And we're going to put a couple of links in the show notes to the blogs that you talked about. I want to say thank you so much. You got me so jazzed with today's conversation. I can't wait to quote my fees next time. Feeling
delights me because I believe so strongly in the power of this content to transform people's lives, because you got speakers out there with decades of experience and a message that can change the world. And if this can help them get more bookings, then what's possible in the world?
What is possible in the world? Casey Brown, thank you so much for your wisdom today. And if you've been listening in and enjoyed it, let us know. With that, we're going to say, see you soon, wealthy speakers. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. If you need help building the speaking business of your dreams, head over to wealthyspeakerschool.com and take advantage of our 20-minute next step call. Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast.